Alright, new session. Sorry, the checkpoint system makes you restart at the last loading screen, basically whenever you bring back this game, so I'm gonna try to be where I left off. I don't think I looked at these guys yet. I've cleared my codex, but I don't think I looked at the stuff in the room yet. My goodness. Okay. Hello.
Ombrian.
Not now.
I wasn't going to talk about that. I was going to ask about how you knew the bloodling.
Same thing.
You met him as a mask runner?
I thought you said you weren't going to talk about it.
I just need to know if we can trust him.
We can.
All right. If you say so.
Alright, somebody that we've only recently met is vouching that we can trust somebody else. That's not always the best source. So, Amadea Invidious 5. There could have been no clear explanation. The woman was Mask Runner. That'd explain her hesitation at joining the investigation, knowing my place in the world of the Mask Runners, but it might also shed some light on why she did join us. Her story with the Mask Runners might have yet come to an end. Perhaps there is a part of her that seeks a closure of some sort. Strangely, this is not an idea that I am uncomfortable with. Indeed, the fact that she is a Mask Runner means something to me. That she is part of my brother's legacy, perhaps? I am unsure what effect this has on me exactly, but I can say that it is not unwelcome. It is... I wonder if exciting is too strong a word. I think of the conversations that I could have with her about Cyrus, what moments of his life she might be able to tell me about, that I'd been too afraid to be a part of. And it relieves me. A part of his legacy that I thought I'd never be able to connect with is now a part of my life again. I understand I must give her the space she needs until she's ready to talk about this, but I do look forward to finding a chance to speak to her about it. There we go, so we have some small connection to our previous life, and what happened after we parted ways with Cyrus. The question is, how willing will she be to open up with that? And also, is that going to potentially lead to him being dangerously too quick to trust her just because he views her as a valuable conduit into a part of his life that he's lost?
So, found anything?
I wasn't able to do very much without the proper tools. Lavia's got them from the market, though, so I'll be able to conduct further tests now, but nothing so far.
Well, if you do find anything, let me know, all right?
Of course.
Leventhos Merbus 2. This is a continuation of that story where our character tried to steal from, I assume, Leventhos, and that led to a monster being unleashed. So that'll be a continuation of that. My legs burned as they launched me across the cobblestones of the docks. Of course, of Ombre's 3 docks, we had to choose the one that belonged to the Dieci Savrani. There was no assistance that would come to us unless we'd paid for them first. But there was no time to spare for lamentations. If I stopped long enough for the fangs or the tail of the flying serpent to find their way into even an inch of my flesh, I'd sooner rather beg for death than live through the torture of its venom. As proud as I was of my ability to navigate dexterously through tight crowds, trying to outrun a flying beast was another matter altogether. Suffice to say, it didn't take long before it caught up with me. Till this day, I do not know what senses the devilish creature must have possessed that it managed to, through a sea of people, strike out at me with such preternatural precision that no others were harmed in the process. All I do remember is the fiery line of searing pain that lanced across my back and sent me tumbling. The rough cobblestones were no more forgiving on my limbs as I scraped and scoured myself against the ground, an embarrassment of a street thief who would pay for his carelessness with his final breaths. It is not uncommon to be reminded in the city how precipitously we all live on the edge of life. And though brushes with death are not uncommon, they are no less harrowing. The scant details of that moment have forever been burned into my memory, where they lie in a frigid place untouched by the warmth of nostalgia. But I digress. The story's about Leventhos, and I'd best get to him quickly lest I lose you. He basically hasn't gotten to him in the entire last half of the story. The harsh tumble across the pavement did not fail to leave its scars on my both my body and mind. I cannot recall with clarity the exact sequence of events that took place immediately succeeding my fall, but I do remember turning around and witnessing the viper tail towering above me, its leathern wings beating to keep it hovering, its tail dripping with my blood, black from mixing with the poison. I am unsure if it was due to the venom or my proximity to what I thought had been the end of my life, but the world seemed to slow, and I began to see it through a tunnel that narrowed with each second, threatening to plunge me into darkness. I recall the beast baring its fangs for a last bite. I recall it pulling its neck back in preparation for a lunge. And I recall its severed head falling to the ground in front of me, hitting the cobblestones in a wet thud as warm droplets of creature's blood splattered my face. The runic man stood before the corpse of his cargo, a blade in hand, eyes wide in shock. It was clear that he'd not often engaged in acts of brutality, which made his efficiency in them rather curious. I recall nothing else after that, for the closing tunnel had strangled the world out of my perception and left me with the numbing darkness of sleep. The next thing my memory preserved was the warmth of fire spreading through the bitter cold extremities, the flashes of consciousness and voices of my family, the smell of heated broth, that runic voice of the man whose shipment had contained a damn viper tail, and then violent nausea as the contents of my stomach revolted against their containment. Told you he'd miss, came my brother's voice. I raised my head from beside me, noting how the floor beside the bucket was sullied with my retching. A soft hand found its way onto my arm. Mother, how are you feeling? I opened my mouth, but no sound came from it. His throat's still swollen, someone said. Everyone turned their heads to the fireplace a few paces away, where a young runic man sat, his hands folded across his lap. It'll be a few days before he can speak again. I turned to my brother and began gesturing. Venom? Cyrus shrugged and turned to the runic man instead. He's asking about the venom, wonders how he's still alive. I carry an antidote with me, the man said simply. Will be silly to ferry those things around without an antidote, no? Levanthos, my mother said. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Indeed. You have no idea how much your generosity means to us, she continued, and her voice trailed off as I turned my attention to my brother, confused. I shook my brother's arm, grabbing his attention. Why? Why what? He gestured back as mother and the man Levanthos continued their conversation. Why did he save me? Cyrus frowned. He didn't like asking about debts. The man saved me, and that was enough for him. No point about asking questions about it, but I had to know. Why? I signed again. What is it, Cyrus? My mother asked, finally noticing our exchange. What's he saying? I gave him a look. Ask. Cyrus turned to the man. He wants to know why you saved him. Why shouldn't I? He replied, as though the answer weren't obvious. He tried to steal from you, for one, Cyrus said. Doesn't quite make sense that you'd kill your cargo for him and waste your antidote, too. He might have stolen from me, yes, the man said, standing. And I'd say he'd paid the price enough, wouldn't you? He made his way over to my side and looked at me straight in the eyes. Besides, I came here to start running an inn, and I've been hoping to find someone to assist me in its affairs. Some honest work for a change, no? So that was his long game. Saved my life and put me in his debt, no doubt. He'd next threatened to rat me out to the authorities if I refuse, saying that it'd cost him his shipment and should therefore serve him for the rest of my... But of course, I'd understand if you didn't want to either. I can't promise I'd pay very much, and I know how much money means in this city, he said, clasping his hands humbly before him, but I just wanted to let you know the offer stands. To say that I was speechless was accurate in many ways, because his throat was closed, for I'd not once met them with someone stupidly generous as this man. It was a typical response of a young Contadani boy my age to respond to kindness not only with disbelief, but with predatory hunger. Those naive enough to harbor generosity in the city had often made easy pickings, yet there was something else about this man that provoked a different response in me. Something about him that quelled my desire to abuse his offer of trust, and I wasn't the only one that felt it either. Cyrus was frowning when I looked over at him for an opinion. Normally, he'd have leapt upon such a chance and would have greeted my gaze with a shimmer in his eyes. It seemed he too was touched by this man's, what shall I call it, genuineness, eagerness, kindness. To this day, I'm not quite sure what adjective best encapsulates the spirit of the man, and I am inclined to say that we simply don't have a word for it. Perhaps in the language of rune, the idea might be better expressed. Whatever it was, and I'm sure it's been made clear by now, I told the man that yes, I would work for him, and subsequently spent my next few years of my life making a partially honest living. Partially, he says. So he was still stealing from people, but he had a job now. Legitimacy.
So, how is Fabio taking the news?
He doesn't plan to stand in your way, if that's what you mean. He's as interested in the nature of them as we are.
Do you think you'll say the same once we find out what they actually do?
You ask when you already know the answer.
Right. I was just hoping, I suppose.
Look forward, Inspectore. We have work to do.
Tiziana. On the bright side, it seems the Luca won't be getting in the way of the investigation just yet. They're playing their hand well, biding time until the stakes get higher and preparing to swoop in for the kill. I must be vigilant regarding the information that I pass along to Tiziana. Her loyalties remain unswayed, and she remains a potential threat to my progress. Oop, gotta find my way around here. Hello.
Settled in already, I see.
It's quite the lovely place you have, really. And quite the motley crew as well.
Don't I know it?
It's not every day you see drops of colours in such close proximity. Golds and blues and browns. Makes me wonder, though, what strange reasons glue this lot together?
Perhaps if you do your job, you might find out.
Yes, of course. We'd best get on with it then, no?
So he's picking up on what's going on here for sure, which he should be. It is rather noteworthy. There's a blue, a gold, a brown, and a purple, and what color am I? Am I a red? Is that what we call this? I've actually lost track a little bit of what he counts as. He's less uniformly colored than the other ones are. He kind of has a blue tunic, but obviously we've seen what blue looks like in this universe, so that's a bit different. He's got main character costume. No immediate dialogue? Alright, let's head on down. Nope. You can enter the training grounds. Reset your skills and test new skills at the training grounds. Okay. So that's what we heard about before, I believe, where we could later change our skills out. So I do have the ability to change my spec if I desire. But I have to come back here to do that. So between missions, which I assume will be relatively common, the between missions part. Do I still only have one plant? Might as well double check just to be sure. I get the feeling that I'll know it when I get something new. Alright, sure. As far as I can tell, there's no negative effects to this, so I'll just make sure everybody has it equipped. There we go. Yep, more mask charge, more damage, more proc chance, all good. So it makes 0 sense as far as I can tell not to have this equipped. Everyone, no save icons are lighting up, so they're all saved. Alright. I can take a look real quick. I don't know if I'd want to... Oh, never mind, it's not even a thing. Oh, you select a party. Right, that makes sense. Sure. It's just the training ground, so I'll just pick people arbitrarily for a bit. I just want to look around. So there's 2 things over here. There's a bunch of weapons everywhere. Not weapons, sorry, armor sets and everything. A few barrels. It's a storage place. So you can train. And you can reset your skills. Alright, straightforward enough. Not immediately interested in dealing with that. But we know it exists. Let's go to day 2, part 2. We have gained the assistance of one of the Bloodless's messengers, Vasco Tessatori, who has informed us that if we indeed desire the Bloodless's assistance in identifying the Herald and locating Lysandra, then we are first going to have to complete a contract on the Bloodless's behalf. On a matron of the Sorel Ward called the Withering Mast. Though I have tried to steer clear of politics during my return here, I cannot say this turn of events surprises me. More or less what we expect from here on out. So do I just talk to that guy and move on? Let's check skills. Did I already upgrade Vasco? I don't think I would have. Yeah, he has 10 points to spend. Alright, let's get familiar with this tree. So this is Dirge, probably is what we expect from these kinds of trees. Increase focus recovery by 3% per second. Whenever the caster moves, they regenerate 3% mask charge per second. So moving around regenerates energy, and just existing regenerates focus by more. Reduce cooldowns of skills, reduces threat generated, that's probably a good thing for him in particular. Increase maximum focus, increase all damage. Or damage reduction, 18% damage reduction or 13% bonus damage. Depends on how much I expect him to take hits, but considering it's a 3-person party, I should probably expect him to take hits a lot, honestly. Wind Burst. Vasco launches a powerful shot that deals 15 base damage to an enemy and activates elemental tag, so that's his basic attack. He also already has 4 skills learned, which explains probably why he only has 10 points I can spend, is the fact that he already has so many skills pre-unlocked. This is one of them. Does elemental tags. Let's see, whenever an elemental tag is activated, enemies within 6 meters become silenced. That's kind of neat. For 1.5 seconds, which is less neat, though. It's a minor inconvenience, although it is an AoE at least. Alternative is that he recovers focus. The silencing could be good as an interrupt. Increased shot damage by 20. Interesting. What's the normal... The problem there is we don't know what the normal damage is. Like, with most attacks, I generally have zero concept of how powerful they are, so having something suddenly decide to give me explicit numbers doesn't really help that much when I don't know what the numbers are in relationship to. Yeah, it just says... Oh, never mind, 15 base damage. Okay, so it would be doing 35 damage. That's not bad. So damage is one thing we do know, but there have been other references to stats where they're like, oh, it makes this thing do more, and it's like, I don't know what it does now, or how much it's increasing by with the thing, is often a thing in this game. I may just go for that right here, honestly. Let's go for the silence, because it sounds like it'd be useful. And let's go for the bonus damage. There we go, so now it should be doing 35 damage, I believe. For the additional cost of thread, go even further in. 50% damage reduction for 2 seconds. And whenever an elemental tag is activated, the target becomes vulnerable for 3 seconds. So I assume that means that they... I wonder if they drop focus. Like it just stops mattering for a few seconds or something. Bellow drops a blast of air on the target location, dealing base damage to all enemies within 3 meters, so it's an AoE. Not bad. They've been helping a lot so far. Cadence. Vasco channels orbs of compressed air that travel in a single direction. Whenever an orb passes through an enemy, they take base damage. Requiem. Vasco channels spirits at the target location and deals 8 base damage per second to all enemies within 4 meters. Huh. So it seems to be also an AoE, but I think it's one you can choose a location for. No, they're both target locations. But it's damage per second instead. For how long? See, that's a little iffy for math. This one, boom, 25 damage, straightforward. This one, 8 damage per second? How many seconds? I don't know. Void. Conjures a force field that sucks in enemies within 6 meters for 1 second. That could be fun. Throw down an AoE that grabs everybody into one little ball where you could just trap them to continue to hit them with attacks, basically. Does he have one attack equipped twice here? Bellow. Am I crazy there? He seems to have Bellow equipped twice. In fact, I can't even highlight this one. That seems to be a weird mistake that it's even showing up there. So I should probably learn a new skill then. Is that a squirrel? Windswarm conjures a squirrel apparition that flies towards an enemy. Apparition deals 10 base damage and will attack up to 3 times, targeting the next nearest enemy after the previous one. So it's a weird wind squirrel equivalent of chain lightning, which is bizarre. Sure. Alright. Wait, sucks in enemies within 6 meters for 1 second. Grabbing people into one spot is cool. Doing it for 1 second is less useful. Let's see. Before it dissipates lightning strikes to deal 10 damage. That's also cool. And it would give them an air tag. So it's an AoE air tag applier. That could be nice. Or they could be rooted for 3 seconds. That's better crowd control, because I was talking about the idea of it giving crowd control in 1 second not seeming like enough. That'd be an additional. That'd be 4 seconds of them being stuck. This reduces its cost from what? Cost 35, 12-second cooldown. This gives a 10-second cooldown and 30 cost, which is not too bad. Okay. Now it deals 30 damage to the AoE, so now it's becoming a proper damage source when we get down there. Okay, increases force field duration by 2 seconds and radius by 33%. Making it longer and bigger seems like a better idea than doing bonus damage. It could be a proper controlling skill here. So I think I want to get this, then get its rooting, and get its reduction of cooldown, and then get its bonus duration, which should take it to 6 seconds of getting people stuck, which is significantly more effective for crowd control, especially for those pesky enemies that like to run away. Or I could even use it to trap some enemies over somewhere for some period of time while other people run around. Either way, it's an element of board control that I haven't really been having so far. Yep, it magically slotted into that slot that should have been empty but weirdly had bellow in it for some reason. And the good news is, if I don't like what I do, I now have the ability to reset and to replace skills, so that's all fine. So I can't get the bonus duration yet, I'm short by 1 point. That'll come quickly enough. I'll be like a few conversations away from unlocking those points. You've got 1 point, probably don't have anything to spend that on. No, usually 1 point doesn't get anything done, so I think we're done here. Alright. Welcome to the crew.
Here we go, sir. All touched up.
Oh. New Mascherines. Oops. I was pressing M, but there's a pop-up telling me to press M. Getting in my way. So these replace our skill here. So right now I have Quagmire, for example. So are there different Mascherines for different characters? There are. But so I don't have to pick one over the other for the same character. So I like my half mask, but there might be better skills that I like more. So maybe I should go with that. Costs 120. 15-meter wide aura that lasts for 10 seconds. Enemies within the aura have their attack and movement speed reduced by 25%. So it's a slowdown and nothing else. Let's see. This is even more expensive. Do I even have the energy for this? Oh wait, it's the mask. It is the ultimate. It's a different resource anyway. So I don't have to worry about that. It's just knowing that it's going to take longer to charge. As the caster moves, they absorb geothermal energy from the ground and recover 2% of their maximum focus per meter for 15 seconds. So it's a thing that says if you run around a lot, you'll recover focus. Not too interesting to me. This one will take a while to charge. Grotescus. Turn to stone and taunt nearby enemies for 5 seconds. While the caster's in this form, they cannot move, become immune to damage, and heal for 10% of their maximum health per second. So he'll turn into a super tank, taunt everyone to attack him, heal for half his health while distracting people for 5 seconds. That's not bad. That's the type of thing that could turn the tides. Quagmire's slowing of movement and attack is good for turning the tides, but Grotescus could also lead to everybody focusing on him so hard that the rest of the party just gets free ability to do whatever they want. It kind of sounds like a great way to recover too, because it also heals him. I like that idea. I think I'll try it. It'll be weird seeing him run around with a full mask though, because we've gotten so used to this neat looking half mask that he's got for his magical protagonist mask. Alright, Kalden, he currently invokes the power of water, giving all allies 50% damage reduction for 5 seconds. I like that one. Might stay with that one. Here's that half mask we saw earlier. Cast an aura that taunts nearby enemies for 15 seconds. I mean, for 10 seconds. It's just a taunt, though. Taunts are good, but it sounds like it could be suicidal used the wrong way. Whereas this one's 50% damage reduction. That's good for the tide of battle. I think I want to stick with that. Anything for Tiziana? We have the bottom one. Weird how it skipped that way far way down. Let's just double check that I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom with these people. It looks like everyone has a total of 5 masks. And they might all just be environmental pickups, so for all I know I could be missing one already. So right now she casts an aura of protection that lasts for 10 seconds. If she takes fatal damage while this aura is active, she heals for 75% of her maximum health and unleashes fire. So the rebirth is fitting. She activates this before death, and then when she falls, she explodes to do damage, but then comes back to life anyway. Chakra launches a slow-moving fireball in a single direction, burning all enemies it touches for 15 damage. Huh. A big, crazy AoE could be fun, but it's only 15 damage, which seems like a bummer, unless it's going to hit them for 15 damage over and over and over again because it's so slow-moving, which seems conceivable. I do really like Rebirth, though, honestly. Seems like something to stick with. Let's see, Embroil. I have another one here, too. So Amadea turns the ground within 15 meters into pools of quicksand, rooting people for 10 seconds. That's pretty good crowd control. New option. Whoa. Game had trouble loading the model, apparently. Summons 2 melee Klingon grunts to fight for the caster for 20 seconds. Their attacks slow enemy attack and movement speed by 20%. Interesting. So you get 2 additional characters added to the field that add as an additional distraction and buffer. I actually really like that idea, so I'm going to grab that. There we go. Yeah, I like that idea. The idea of being able to add more units to the field, especially since if the enemy chooses to attack them, you're really getting an advantage there. Last is Vasco with Shroud. Increases Vasco's movement speed by 25%, reducing his threat gain for 10 seconds, and he has no alternate options yet, although this one sure looks like it's going to be some sort of ball mask, or even like a plague doctor mask. That'll be interesting to see. Actually, I think we've seen variations of that already. Alright. Kind of gives you a sense of the overall scale of the game. I get the feeling we're kind of far along already. We have 2 or 3 masks for basically everyone. In fact, I think when you average them out, we have 2 masks per person. Then you look at the codex entries, and a lot of them are like getting closer and closer to halfway points, depending on where you look. So I would estimate we might be a third of the way through the game, going by our mask count and codex progress, but we'll see.
Where to, sir?
A Sorelle ward. The Withering Mast.
And now we pick our party members. But Calden can't come. Alright, well, obviously I want the new guy to come, because I want to play around with his new skills. Who else would I want? It's actually slightly tough to say. Might want to bring a big tough character along, in the case of Tiziana, to complement the rogue character joining the party. That might be the right call, I think.
It's rather curious that we're traveling to a Sorelle ward without our Sorelle.
There are some times when familiarity is less than wanted.
Now is one of those times?
Unfortunately so.
Even the best of the guilds still has shadows, doesn't it?